I don't want reality.
Don't be creepy.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
The box is full of Pepe.
It's science. It's science.
China.
I did everything right and they indicted me. Are you not entertained?
Phrasing. Follow the rich white man.
I see that you know your judo.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
He looks good, and he looks hard.
Don't be creepy.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
This is from 12 Rules for Life. I don't want reality. There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
This is from 12 Rules for Life.
Jesus ain't say that. Jesus ain't say that.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy.
He looks good. He looks good. He looks good. And he looks hard.
It's science.
You supercalifragilisticexpialidocious bitch.
Rid of the Second Amendment.
China.
Illegal. I did everything right and they indicted me. Zuckerbucks. Zuckerbucks. Illegal.
Follow the rich white man.
Phrasing.
I see that you know your judo.
Close it up, just like my wife's vagina. Don't be creepy.
Phrasing.
It's science.
Well, it's fantastic to see all you folks once again. Excuse my voice. Looks like we've got another day, another doom. Thankfully, we have each other for this journey. So buckle up, space fans. It's time. Well, chat, I'm afraid that I don't have anything fun or exciting to start the show off with. Just gonna have to get straight into the doom. Hopefully, we can all withstand what lies in front of us. As usual, we're gonna start the United States. What feels like, at this point, pre-planned gun violence. However, it's not fate. It's our ability to take guns away from Americans.
Get rid of the Second Amendment.
So let's look at this first video here from NBC News. Suspect dead after killing 2 people in Las Vegas law office.
Including some news out west, where just in the last couple of hours,
Whoa.
from police that a shooter is dead after killing 2 people.
Hold on, what is happening? First off, this volume is way too low. Go to the beginning, please. Just back. Huh? Come on.
At a law office in Vegas.
Stop that. And what is this? Anarchy? My god. This is... How many likes do you actually have right now? Do you have 20? You only have 15 right now. And there's 20 of you in chat. So it looks like we're going to lose both Morty, Jessica, Fletcher, Neo, and even Cisco, which makes me sad because you clearly have the ability to make this happen right now. There's 20 of you with your powers combined. We could have Captain Benjamin Cisco. He could stay here, but he's gonna have to leave. You see what happens? Oh god, that makes me so sad. Oh, it hurts me. It hurts me to do this to you, chat. Hope you know. What is happening? There we go.
Out west, where just in the last couple of hours, we've learned from police that a shooter is dead after killing 2 people at a law office in Vegas. You can see some of the scene here. This was a huge police response. People evacuated from the building during the manhunt for the attacker. NBC's Steve Patterson is following this for us. There were some questions about what had happened and how this standoff would end. Walk us through it.
Hallie, and those questions still persist to some degree. We're getting details hot and heavy, trying to confirm things on the back end. What we can tell you at this point, as you mentioned, 3 people dead, including the suspected shooter. This is Summerlin, Nevada. This is about maybe 10 miles outside of the Vegas Strip or so. It's 10 o'clock this morning. Some of the video, you might see this big office building. That's where it happens. Think 6-story office building. It's why the police response, in part, is so big, because the building is so big. They have to clear each room, room by room. In the 5th floor of that building is this law firm. That is where police say the shooting occurs. It's at a law firm. Based on what we know, and based on talking to parties and sources close to the investigation, the parties involved, which means the shooter and the people that were shot, unfortunately, knew each other. To what capacity? We're not sure if we can report that at this point, but suffice to say, this is a tragedy to that community. It's an affluent community. Again, just maybe 10 miles off the strip. This law firm is, of course...
Doesn't matter what community you're in if you let everybody have guns, okay?
Get rid of the Second Amendment.
Ah, boy. It's an affluent community. Oh, that doesn't make any sense because affluent people don't have guns. I just realized that the stream is titled 3-7 when it's in fact 3-8. This is ridiculous. Who's in charge of this situation? Okay, well, that's it for gun violence. For now. But moving forward, let's look at some environmental news, both here and abroad, kinda, yeah, a little bit. It's a globe, right? It's a global environment. Not just us. Okay, first, let's watch a little piece of this video. Why bumblebees are the fuzzy heroes that we need. From 11 hours ago, from PBS Terra.
Known to the community, people there.
Stop that.
In 2022, California decided this was a fish. Kinda. Conservation advocates were trying to protect bumblebee species.
Hold on. Hold on. I see that you've achieved the Cisco tier. There you go. Hold on. I've been having to do 2 different copies of this scene because of the freezing that's been happening. Okay, there we go.
The California Endangered Species Act. But that 1984 law only covers native bird, mammal, fish, amphibian, reptile, or plant species under threat. So it seemed like insects and other invertebrates weren't eligible. But under California's Fish and Game Code, fish means wild fish, mollusks, crustaceans, invertebrates, or amphibians, which is casting a pretty wide net. So bumblebee lovers argued that bees could be considered fish, and the state court agreed. As of 2024, 4 bumblebee species are candidates for protection under California law. This means they get preemptive safeguards and helps conserve their habitats. It can be hard to drum up support for insects. And in general, as humans, we tend to suffer from taxonomic bias. We tend to love things that are warm or cuddly, that remind us of mammals or remind us of ourselves. But we need these critical pollinators. And they, along with insects around the world, are plummeting in numbers. We're still trying to understand why, but we do know that bumblebees face some unique threats. Maybe you could help figure out what's going on.
Jessica, when I think about risks to bees, I feel like I've heard of this thing called colony collapse disorder. What is that?
So colony collapse disorder is when a beehive kind of dies off. And in the late 2000s, this happened to a bunch of hives. And so the name was kind of coined to describe this new phenomenon that was happening. Colony collapse disorder is when a large proportion of the workers die off. So even if queens are left alive, or the babies, if the workers aren't there to do the job, then the colony itself collapses. In the beginning, it was a mystery what was causing colony collapse disorder. A parasitic mite was an early candidate, and then there were ideas about other parasites, diseases, or insecticides. Now what we think is that probably it's an additive effect, so it's not just one thing, it's death by 1,000 cuts causing the colony to collapse.
I like honey.
Who doesn't?
But why did colony collapse disorder make headlines?
You can actually quantify the impact of the loss of bees. Cold hard cash can actually get people to start talking about, conservation and direct action. So
bees have knees. So true. So true. Is that a bee museum? It does appear to be a bee museum, or at least some kind of bee installment.
The Obama administration launched this presidential task force that was looking at pollination, and the numbers suggested that maybe a loss of these honeybees would be a loss of about $15 billion. So I think this was a wake-up call, maybe, to humans, right?
So are honeybees the most important pollinators we have?
No. So the irony is, of course, colony collapse disorder, the kind of genesis that sparked this educational campaign was something that was only happening to Apis mellifera, which is the European honeybee. It's actually not native to North America. And as an introduced species, honeybees can have negative effects on native species. They can outcompete other bees and even threaten the long-term health of native plants.
Wait, honeybees are competing with native species? What kinds of bees are native here? What do we have?
We have a lot of species of bees. There are actually thousands of species of bees, like more than 4,000 bee species native to North America. Tiny little ground nesting bees all the way up to chunky carpenter bees.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to move us forward real quick. Where did I want to get it? Did I already? Anyways, honestly, I think that covered what I basically wanted to cover anyways. I don't think we need to watch the whole thing. But remember, bees are generally important, and the the wildlife, the fish and game people are now putting them under, like at least the native species under. Oh my god, my brain just broke. Under protection, right? Thank you, brain, for remembering words. And so yeah, I think that's really freaking great. The way they did it was pretty sly. But the fact is, the definition for fish, which is how they've decided to class bees, which I know sounds insane, but as it apparently, like, the definition of fish under the Fish and Wildlife Act of whatever says, like, fish include like a myriad of subspecies that just live in the water. Not even, like, you know what I mean? It's like all sorts of different species that live in the water, invertebrates. It's kind of funny, but it did allow them to protect bees as they were not protected. Okay, let's watch this Democracy Now! Video from 11 hours ago, entitled "Earth Breaks New Records for Greenhouse Gases in the Atmosphere as Climate Crisis Intensifies."
People will be donning their glasses today to watch the solar eclipse across parts of the United States. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In a moment, we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at the climate crisis, as scientists warn 3 of the most significant human-caused greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, reached new record highs again last year. That's according to U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, which said global carbon dioxide levels are now over 50% higher than they were before mass industrialization due to the burning of fossil fuels.
Most fish do, in fact, live in water. Yeah. But, like, the definition of the fish in this particular act, if you I think that's what it's classified as, it's a very broad it's basically literally anything that lives in water, like clams and shrimp and like, you know, like crayfish and whatever else, you know. And I'm pretty certain a crayfish isn't actually a fish if you ask a scientist, but if they're gonna make the definition so broad, might as well protect I almost called bees bish. Might as well protect the bishes.
Deforestation and livestock agriculture. New data has also confirmed that March was the hottest ever recorded and the 10th consecutive month to set a global heat record. Meanwhile, climate scientists continue to raise alarm about the catastrophic impacts of rising temperatures in Antarctica after researchers in 2022 recorded the largest hike in temperature ever measured in the coldest region on Earth. For more, we're joined by Peter Kalmus, climate activist and a climate scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, speaking on his own behalf, not on behalf of NASA. He's joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us, Dr. Kalmus. Before we go to the climate catastrophe, I want to talk to you about today's much-anticipated solar eclipse. Millions of people across North America donning protective glasses this afternoon to witness the eclipse when the moon covers all or a portion of the sun. Beginning in Mexico's Pacific coast, from there the path will continue into Texas and across dozens of other states before the eclipse enters Canada in southern Ontario. And here in New York, 6 prisoners in Sullivan County at the Woodburn Correctional Facility will be among those gathering outside to view the rare event after winning a lawsuit that argued forcing them to remain indoors was a violation of their religious beliefs. The prison had issued a lockdown during the time of the eclipse, which will peak in New York at 3:25. It's been, what, 7 years since the last total solar eclipse? Can you explain it to us?
Yeah, so I did have the good fortune to see the eclipse in 2017 in Oregon, and it was quite stunning, actually, quite amazing, something to see. So, I was trained as an...
Of course, Amy doesn't care what people think of her. She is like a genuine journalist, and it's not about her, right? I know that we like to make it out to be like that, but I think in her mind, I could be, estimating the situation. But think about it. Like, she's essentially created Democracy Now! From almost nothing into what it is today over 30 years. Why would she care? She's respected by everyone for her work, right? I mean, they do genuine journalism, right? And so I think when you're a journalist, right? And I'm not one, even though I pretend to be one on your phone or computer, but that's not the point of journalism. It's meant to uncover things that other people might not see, to distribute information and knowledge that is important. And sure, bias comes into play for all journalists, but I think Amy Goodman is one of those journalists who's just been willing to go out and do the hard shit no matter what people say about it. And it literally, it always winds up being that they've done the work. It literally is never not the case. Sorry, we completely got distracted now. I'm going back 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I did have the good fortune to see the eclipse in 2017 in Oregon, and it was quite stunning, actually, quite amazing, something to see. So, I was trained as an astrophysicist. My training is in physics, and I was an astrophysicist before I was a climate scientist. And I'm going to take this back to kind of my understanding of global heating. This planet, we live on a planet. It's a sphere. You're going around the sun, there's the moon going around this planet, and every so often it's going to go right in front of the sun, and we're going to have a shadow on the Earth, and that's all that's happening. It's exactly the same as any object blocking a light source and creating a shadow.
No, I'm not. I don't know if I accept that premise. More pitchforks. I don't feel like I am a journalist. I feel like I am a news like a general news and media curator / commenter, right? I provide context sometimes when I'm capable of doing that, but am I going to the lengths that real journalists are going? I don't accept that premise. Right? If I'm a journalist, that makes a lot of other people who aren't journalists as well. I don't think I'm ready to go down that slippery slope, I think that what I do here is probably a half step above just straight up React content. All right, I might be underestimating that slightly, but you get what I'm saying.
Except it reminds us that we are on a planet, and we are in the vast cosmic space, right? The distances between planets and the sun are so huge that it's very infrequent that you get the moon lining up just so in front of the sun to create that shadow that completely blocks out the sun for a couple of minutes. We are on a very fragile place with a very fragile climate system.
Thankfully they're only talking about the eclipse right now because you guys are making me laugh.
That is very much able to be pushed by humans burning fossil fuels, for example, and that's what we're starting to see as things get hotter and hotter. So I think this is a good opportunity for people to reflect on the fact that we live on a very fragile and beautiful rock in space, the only place we know in the cosmos to support life.
And why is it important that we wear these glasses? As I put them on right now, and now there is a rush to get these, I can see nothing, just...
This is why I left it in, though. It's just so funny to see Amy, like, have fun for 30 seconds. It's not even 30 seconds. It's like 15 seconds at max. But to see her genuinely having fun about something that's not like a genocide or like a coup or some environmental tragedy. Like, it's so funny. Maybe it's just me that enjoys it this much, but
sitting here in the studio through these kind of sunglasses. Explain what they do.
Yeah, well, they basically block a lot of the light from the sun so that you don't go blind and you don't hurt your eyes. So please don't look directly at the sun.
And what about pets? What about animals? What happens to them?
I mean, eyes work the same in humans as in animals, so don't, I think most animals will have enough sense to not look directly at the sun.
Or to don these glasses. The New York Times had an interesting piece, "The Eclipse That Ended a War and Shook the Gods Forever." Thales, a Greek philosopher 2,600 years ago, is celebrated for predicting a famous solar eclipse and founding what came to be known as science. Your final thoughts on this, Dr. Peter Kalmus?
I really want to talk about global heating and the climate crisis. So, I think, science is, it's.
Look, it's totally fair. If you're this guy, you're a NASA climate scientist, you get on Democracy Now!, you talk about the climate. And Amy totally gets it too. She just wants to have fun, okay? Amy just wants to have fun.
I think, science is, it seems strange to have to remind people of this, but science is just an incredibly, it's a treasure. It's a human treasure. And we're seeing so much anti-science right now, which breaks my heart. So many people are easily misled by disinformation from the fossil fuel industry, from politicians. It breaks my heart that somebody, for example, who spreads lies and who is anti-science could actually be elected into public office and continue the damage. It's as a society, we're also very fragile. We live in a very fragile climate system, but we're very easily misled by disinformation. And science is essentially the antidote. Science is how we understand reality. And when we don't pay attention to what's really happening, for example, on planet Earth, it's incredibly dangerous. And right now we're in a situation, in my opinion, with global heating, where billions of lives are at risk.
So let's talk about global heating. The solar eclipse apparently brought down empires because people were so frightened by it. We'll see if climate activism takes on governments to change their positions. If you can talk about these firsts that we're experiencing, the last one I talked about in Antarctica, the hottest year on record, we just passed there. What does all of this mean, Peter?
Right. So the fossil fuel industry is still expanding. They're controlled by very rich people who have all of the power. The power structures in this society, as you well know, are geared towards the very rich. They control a lot of the media. They spread disinformation. The public right now, because the planet's getting so hot, and as we've seen since March of 2023, as you mentioned, the last 10 months being the hottest on record, it looks to me like we are entering a sort of potentially new regime, a potential acceleration in global heating. The climate scientist community does not have a very good understanding on why things are going so off the charts over the last year or so. It's deeply disturbing to me. The fossil fuel industry is the cause, make no mistake. When that gets expanded, you release more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, more methane into the atmosphere, and that is going to make the planet get hotter. In 2021, 6 fossil fuel executives went in front of Congress. They were asked directly Is climate change, is global heating an urgent crisis? They said yes. They were asked directly, will you stop spreading disinformation? They would not agree to doing that, which is tantamount to them saying that they will continue spreading disinformation.
Yeah.
I cannot think of
100%.
anything more evil than for people, for these executives and lobbyists.
I believe what Pitchfork's Dragon is referring to is a theory relating to the warming seen during a period approximately 3 million years ago that scientists have tried to explain from different angles, essentially.
And their lawyers to be continuing to profit, to line their pockets at the irreversible habitability, like destruction of habitability of the earth. I should probably mention who those CEOs were in 2021 who went before Congress. They were Darren Woods, the CEO of Exxon, Michael Wirth, the CEO of Chevron, David Lawler, the CEO of BP, Gretchen Watkins, the president of Shell, Mike Sommers, the president of the American Petroleum Institute, and Suzanne Clark, the CEO of the Chamber of Congress. So when they are able to kind of block action by essentially bribing politicians, when they control the mainstream media, right? When they buy advertisements in the New York Times and Reuters, so that these trusted news sources will not connect the dots. These news sources will report on a heat wave, they'll report on a flood, they'll report on a wildfire, which is climate related, but they will not say that the cause is the fossil fuel industry, that the fossil fuel industry has been lying for decades, has essentially pledged to continue lying. That we're on a trend of getting warmer and warmer every single year, getting hotter and hotter, which is why all of these records that are being broken should be absolutely no surprise to the public, right? If you're on an escalator towards hotter planetary temperatures, of course you're going to be breaking records over and over again. And again, I want to reiterate, the cause is the fossil fuel industry. The only way out of this heat nightmare is to end the fossil fuel industry. They will try to distract you as much as possible, talking about things like carbon capture, talking about things like nature-based solutions. It's all distraction. We have to end the fossil fuel industry. Until we do that, the planet will keep getting hotter. We'll see more deadly heat waves. We'll see them coming more frequently, more intense. We'll see more crop failures. We'll see more flooding. Eventually, we'll see mass amounts of climate refugees, geopolitical destabilization like we've never experienced before. And the public is still essentially asleep because the media is not, the mainstream media is not reporting this with the urgency that it demands as an actual emergency.
I wanted to ask you about...
It makes the mainstream media somewhat complicit in this whole situation, if not wholly complicit. Moving along. Let's watch this video from a few days ago, entitled, "Is Global Warming Speeding Up?"
The more greenhouse gases we pump into the atmosphere, the hotter our world gets. And the hotter our world gets, the more we struggle with devastating weather disasters and their consequences. And now some scientists are warning that the world isn't just heating up, but that the heating up could be speeding up. So is global warming really accelerating? What would this mean for our future? And can we still hit the brakes? I'm Adam, a climate scientist with a PhD from Oxford, sharing what you need to know about climate change. And today I want to talk with you about whether global warming is accelerating. And the answer is quite possibly. Maybe.
Well, that's not a very satisfying answer.
Sure, I know, but the reasons we know what we know and don't know what we don't know are kind of important. So don't go anywhere just yet. Also, if you're watching this and wondering who today's sponsor is...
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Well,
I wasn't wondering.
I have, and that's because it was.
Anyways, we don't even have to watch this whole video. I just wanted to kind of hit this point home. you know? That was only like a 10% of this video. I don't care. We don't need to see the whole thing. We know. We've been looking at the graphs. We've been looking at the analysis. We've been looking at videos from the UN, from other experts around the globe, saying that we have an intensely warming climate currently, to the point that it is, according to the UN, a red alert. So yeah, let's keep that in mind when we're thinking about how we deal with this situation. Okay. This is just following up on a video that we looked at recently. Whoa, what just happened? Whoa. Hold on, chat. My monitors just did some funky stuff. Hold on. What the fuck just happened? There we go. Is this right? Is that gonna fix it? Come on, everybody, work together. Holy fuckity fuck. How did this happen? Whoa. Whoa. Unacceptable. Somehow, my entire monitor setup just completely did some very interesting things. Oh, the fuck. Fuck, where is this? Oh my god, all my windows got moved around. This is a disaster. Okay. Where in the fuck? Oh, here it is. Okay, gotta move this over. Whoa. Okay. Hold the phone. There we go. Okay, fixed it. Wow. That was weird. Okay, let's see here. What's next? Alright, yes, this is a video from Denver 7 from a day ago. This is just touching on something that we were looking at, I think a couple of days ago now, where there were massive, very violent windstorms in the Denver area, and apparently over when I said it, when I initially talked to you guys about this, I believe that the number of people that were out of power was something like, I think we estimated it at like 20,000, but as it turns out, it's over 150,000. So let's look at this video real quick.
And this evening, tens of thousands of Coloradans still without power. Xcel Energy crews turned off service to about 55,000 customers as a precaution yesterday. And even more people have lost power because of this storm. So you can see Xcel's outage map here. More than 90,000 customers still without power tonight, and crews are now assessing the damage, slowly getting power restored in some areas. Denver 7's Sam Pena spoke with some Lakewood residents in the dark today.
The day after massive winds tore through Colorado, cleanup efforts have begun. You can see this downed power line right here. I'm having to keep my distance right now to stay safe. It's being held up by a tree, but also cutting off power right now to a Lakewood neighborhood.
That's a dangerous spot for the line to be down.
It's the talk of this small Lakewood neighborhood.
We get another gust of wind, the whole thing could drop down.
An Xcel line in the middle of the road knocked down by the wind.
I think we had hurricane force winds. You couldn't sleep.
Resident Tom Hertnell says it shut down his power Saturday night.
We've got about 60,000 toys, so all those are spread out throughout the yard that we're going to have to clean up.
And Tom isn't alone.
Everything is blown away, and there's underwear in our front yard that's not ours, so it's kind of crazy. So yeah, all this was blown through here.
Oh god, that sucks. But probably not as bad as having no power. Just saying. Okay, what's next? Alright, let's look at a couple different videos here about the eclipse that happened today, in case you missed it. Here, we'll enjoy it together. Just gonna go straight into this next one. No reason for me to break. Ooh, decorative pillows. Okay. Well, do we watch this? You know, we'll watch part of this because it like catches like everybody like across the world who saw parts of this. Let's see. You know what? No, it's not important. This is not important. Crowds stress you out? Yeah. Yeah. Not a lot of crowds on the space station that I have to deal with. Okay, let's move on to some American-related news stuff here. First, we'll look at why Uber and Lyft are threatening to leave Minneapolis. AP explains. Whoops.
Uber and Lyft plan to end ride-hailing services in Minneapolis next month. The threat is a response to a city ordinance that would raise driver pay, effective May 1st. If the companies follow through, it would suddenly leave residents without transportation they rely on.
Vice President Shugtime. Aye.
Last month, the Minneapolis City Council passed new rules to bring driver pay in line with the city's $15.57 minimum wage. Supporters of the ordinance say that Uber and Lyft's business model is unsustainable and accuse the companies of exploiting immigrant labor. The companies say the new rates would make fares unaffordable for riders. If nothing changes, Lyft said they'll end operations in city limits. Uber said that they'll leave the metro area.
It is such a pathetic complaint for Lyft to complain about this kind of stuff. Sorry, I was just trying to read something. Why aren't you playing? Play.
Entirely, but services like Uber Eats will continue. Disability advocates say this would cut a vital lifeline to jobs and healthcare, while business leaders worry about the economic impact on downtown zones that have struggled to recover since the pandemic. Uber has already closed their only...
Here's the thing. If you can't pay your workers a living wage, it's not a business. Okay? It's just not. So, all these fake concerns about economic impacts and stuff, like let's talk about real world impact where people are working a job where they can't survive, right? What's the impact on that? Huh? Like, what's the impact on society from people working jobs like that? If it's not a business model, it shouldn't be a business, right? But it came out of extreme private financing. It took over the space. Basically, you know, created the space itself. Them and Lyft, it's a complete duopoly of a market, and they have complete control, and yet somehow it's not a business model. They can't manage to pay people. Well, guess what? Then just shut it down.
Support center in the state, and both companies have begun ending car rental programs for drivers. A handful of startups have said they'd come in to fill the void, but it's unclear how.
The thing is, like, at one time in my life, I was doing like a shuttle service, right? And so I'd meet all these like taxi guys at the airport, and then one day they were all freaked out. Uber and Lyft were coming to town, or to the city, but you know, they were all freaked out. And you know what? The ramifications of this have been pretty clear, right? They've disenfranchised people who put a lot of effort and money into becoming taxi drivers, buying medallions, whatever else. Was the medallion system perfect? No, it certainly wasn't. There's a lot of things that could have been done about that. But if Uber can't pay people what they deserve, then why are we using that? Fact is, they have plenty of money. They just don't want to. You know, that's why they've been using algorithms to trick drivers into taking less and less money, pitting them up against each other, using, you know, algorithms and bullshit sort of systems, you know.
Many drivers would sign up, or even when the programs could actually launch. Uber and Lyft say there's room to compromise. They point to a report released by the state, which suggests that rates lower than those in the city's plan could still meet the $15 an hour threshold. But supporters of the ordinance are standing firm. An urgent intervention by state legislators could still supersede the city's ordinance.
Which would be fucking garbage, pal. I don't know if you realize that it's bad that they would do that. I feel like most of the people that work at the Associated Press are just kind of true puppets that don't really... Like, they spew out what's being written down for them. Now, maybe some... I'm not saying all the journalists at the AP are that way, but... Because obviously there's people who are actually writing the narrative, but the, you know... The AP just sucks at framing things, like, 50% of the time. They're just usually ready, waiting to serve corporate or current administration's interests. That's basically their whole premise anyway, so I don't know why I'm sitting here complaining about them. Really not necessary, is it? Okay, moving on. This, which we talked about yesterday, more context, once again. This is from the Boeing, the Southwest flight. Was it 2 days ago now? I can't remember. Anyways, let's watch the CNN video giving us a little bit more of what happened on this flight, where a piece of the engine shroud, I believe, or casing, whatever you want to call it, ripped off mid-flight after apparently being hit by something.
All right, new video of an engine cover that fell off a Boeing 737 operated by Southwest Airlines during takeoff in Denver last night. Listen to the pilot and air traffic control working together to land the Houston-bound plane safely back at Denver International Airport.
3695, no problem. Fly present heading. Do you need to run checklist?
Yeah, we're going to need some time. For now, everything's okay, and we don't even know the nature of it.
Hold on, chat. I just realized that I had a typo in this search I was looking for earlier while I was looking at the Uber video. Just for context, I'm going to go back, and well, not that far back. It's too far. It's too far. We've gone too far. In relation to Uber, speaking of people not having enough money to do business, Uber spent $7 billion on stock buybacks in year 2023 alone. Just let that sink in for a second. In 2023, that's last year, Uber spent $7 billion in stock buybacks. Okay? So that's not operating expenses. That's not, you know, and that's actually calculated different on taxes. It's a fucked up loophole too. But basically, the point is that That could have been used to pay people a living wage. Instead, they decided to inflate their own wealth. Literally, that's the only benefit of a stock buyback. It does not benefit a company in any other way aside from enrichment of capital. It's gross. They want to claim, oh, no, we don't have the money to pay people a living wage. That's ridiculous.
Denver last night. Listen to the pilot and air traffic control working together to land the Houston-bound plane safely back at Denver International Airport.
3695, no problem. Fly present heading. Do you need to run checklist?
Yeah, we're going to need some time. For now, everything's okay. And we don't even know the nature of it, but apparently several passengers and flight attendants heard something loud hit the wing, so we're just going to take our time, get set up, and be ready to go. Thank you.
Alpha 3695, no problem. You can expect vectors. Just keep me advised of the situation and let me know if you want to declare an emergency, but I assume we'll probably do that anyways.
Yeah, I'll get back to you. Stand by.
I mean, pretty extraordinary, right? The images you're seeing there while they're taxiing for takeoff, presumably, because we heard our Pete Muntean earlier say that the plane actually made it about 10,000 feet in the air before it was able to.
That's what's fucked. Okay, we talked about this, whatever day this was, when we talked about this. It was the last couple of days. How this asshole right here filming this but on takeoff, not screaming their head off. What in the fuck? Like, what in the fuck? Some people need to put their phones down. You know, they got to know when filming is inappropriate and when it's appropriate. And in this moment, at least do two things at once. You can film and scream at the same time, okay? If a plane's about to take off and shit's flying off, how are you not at, like, an 11 of extremes, okay? That's just me. You know, I used this phrase yesterday, and it's being used in jest to some degree. But see something, say something, okay? Like, come on, pal. Where's your responsibility? That is fucking negligence.
Around and then did land safely there. In a statement to CNN, Southwest Airlines apologizes for the inconvenience, but said their highest priority is the safety of their customers. The FAA is investigating the incident, which is the latest in a string of issues to plague Boeing aircraft.
This is not a 737 MAX, and that's the big headline out of this. We've heard so much about the issues on the 737 MAX 9, like the Alaska Airlines door plug incident back on January.
Seriously, my dogs, going viral is more important than safety. People have lost their goddamn minds, okay? It is fucking nonsense. Oh, God. Yeah, let's... Oh, it was an engine cover. Okay, yeah, so... let's listen to a little bit more. I'm going to back this up. What he says here is very important, okay, people? Because Boeing has been saying, oh, no, it's all just problems with the 737 MAX. Well, this plane was not a 737 MAX. It was a different plane.
737 MAX, and that's the big headline out of this. We've heard so much about the issues on the 737 MAX 9, like the Alaska Airlines door plug incident back on January 5th. This was an older 737-800 built in 2015 by Boeing. This plane apparently had issues almost immediately after takeoff. The Southwest flight was going from Denver International Houston Hobby, took off at about 7:49 Mountain Daylight Time, so that's about 9:49 on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's Boeing. We've been talking about it too, right, Bad Lefty? Like we harped on it for like a full week when that God, there's been like 3 or 4 of these now in the last month or so, but. Like I feel like we've been talking about it so much, but I should reiterate this. This is number one, definitely not a cause of DEI. 2, it's definitely not plane specific, and 3, it is 100% due to the fact that Boeing has been, instead of using money to make sure that safety measures are being followed, to be double checking, triple checking things, they've been using that money for stock buybacks. Once again, let's just change Uber to Boeing. $39 billion on stock buybacks between just 2014 and 18. $39 billion. I'm pretty sure it would take less than $39 billion to make sure that these planes are getting put together correctly. That's just me. Maybe I'm underestimating it. Maybe making sure bolts are properly fucking fastened. Maybe that's more than $35 billion worth of work. I'm not actually I was about to say something that's untrue. But it's just so ridiculous. Okay, we're moving forward into a little bit of American politics before we hit the rest of the globe here. Okay, Trump. 4 hours ago, from the Associated Press, Trump says he believes that abortion should be left to the states. As we all know, that's gone incredibly well for people who hate women.
Former President Donald Trump has declined to endorse a federal ban on abortion. In a post Monday on his Truth Social platform, Trump said that he felt the issue is best left to the states.
The states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state.
That's a situation that has developed after the 2022 overturning of the pivotal Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision that had guaranteed a federal right to abortion. Abortion has developed into a major issue in the 2024 campaign. I
know I've said it multiple times. I'm going to say it again. How is it that since 2022, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, till now, which is it's nearing 2 years now, how is it that nothing's been done about it?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
levels, but especially at the presidential one. Democratic President Joe Biden was quick to criticize Trump's post, saying in a statement of his own that Trump has created the patchwork, difficult situation of different restrictions and regulations on abortion across the country that Biden said has left many women in the lurch when it comes to their own health care. Other Republicans have been critical of Trump's post too, including former Vice President Mike Pence, a staunch abortion opponent, who said that he felt voters who had supported Trump in past elections had been slapped in the face by his turning down the idea of a national abortion ban.
Oh my God.
By not endorsing a federal abortion ban, Trump is perhaps trying to appeal to some of those voters in the middle who might think that abortion should be an option for at least some.
Actually, fuck it. No, we're going to listen to this whole fucking thing. I don't know why it's like 30 seconds left.
Also purportedly removing one of the criticisms that Democrats have had of his campaign, that arguing that he's just a candidate who wants to outlaw abortion and remove it as an option for everyone. This is something that Joe Biden and other Democrats have been arguing against Republicans writ large, but by refusing to go along with a specific timeline federally, Trump may be trying to appeal to some voters still.
Okay. Me personally, I think that he is probably kicking himself in the butt, if you will, maybe unintentionally here, but it does mean that people are going to be pushing on him from both sides now, by taking that stance. And I mean, hey, he deserves it, but he rarely gets it. Will it affect the election? I genuinely couldn't say. But it does seem to be of note. Let's move on to some more fucking Trump news here. 2 hours ago, judge denies Trump's ask to delay the start of the hush money trial. So, as we all probably know, Trump's in like a million different legal battles right now. He's been trying to delay every single one of them till after the election when he can pardon himself, I guess. And it's not working super good for him.
Breaking news tonight, Donald Trump's first criminal trial is still on track to start 1 week from today after a New York appeals court judge just rejected his new motion for a delay. CNN's Kara Scannell is outside the courthouse in New York for us. Kara, you heard these arguments. Tell us what this means for Trump.
Well, the trial is on. Jury selection will begin 1 week from today on April 15th. Now, this is after Trump's legal team had made an emergency motion asking the judge to put off the trial, to postpone it so they could argue that they need a change in venue. Trump's lawyers saying that the pretrial publicity in New York is just saturated the market, and that they've done a survey of Manhattanites. That's where the pool of jurors will be selected from, and saying that the majority of them thought that Trump was biased. Well, the prosecutors opposed that argument. They said that Trump was making this argument far too late, just 1 week before the trial is set to begin. They also said that the place for the judge and the jury to be decided if this jury could be fair would be in voir dire. That's when the judge carefully polls and questions all of the jurors, and there's participation from Trump's lawyers.
Considering how much money Trump probably owes, but who knows exactly how much of it he's paid in legal bills, like, he gets some of the worst lawyers ever, and it's fucking hilarious.
And from the prosecutors. And they also said about publicity, they said this case is not limited to just Manhattan and New York City. It's an international story. One of the attorneys for the prosecution, Stephen Wu, said to the judge, the mere fact that jurors know about this case is not an indication of bias. This is the defendant coming into this argument with unclean hands because publicity, in large part, is his own making. Now, Trump's lawyers are also asking an appeals court to reverse the gag order that was put in place, blocking Trump from making comments about the judge, his daughter, other family members, prosecutors, the prosecutors themselves. But the judge and Alvin Bragg, the DA, are still free for Trump to speak of. But they're also appealing that order. We're expecting arguments in that to be tomorrow. But for now, this trial is on for next Monday, Wolf.
All right, we'll see what happens. Kara Scannell in New York for us. Thank you. Let's get some.
Okay. I think we get it, chat. All right, what's next? Yeah, let's look at this one too before we move on. Congress returns from 2-week break with Ukraine aid still stalled. Well, weird. It seems like they don't care about Ukraine, but Israel gets billions of dollars worth of aid. Weird.
Lawmakers return to Capitol Hill Monday after a 2-week-long break, and they have a number of issues to tackle. That includes aid to Ukraine, which has become a tricky point to navigate among Republicans. In a letter to senators last week, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said the key to making progress on top priorities is, quote, bipartisanship and compromise. For more, CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian joins me now. Nicole, billions of dollars for funding for Ukraine is stalled. Everybody who wants that to pass says it is desperate. The Ukrainians are desperate for the money. The Senate passed its own version in February. What's going on in the House?
Yeah, well, despite those urgent pleas, it really so far has not moved the needle. And, you know, we do know that Speaker Johnson made clear before Congress adjourned on its Easter recess that he would bring up some type of supplemental aid package once lawmakers get back. But there's still a big question mark about what that's going to look like, if the House will move forward with that nearly $100 billion supplemental package that the Senate passed, or if he will split the package apart or simply put Ukraine aid on the floor. We have seen him in the past do standalone funding packages for Israel. So it is a big if in terms of what the Speaker's next steps are. I'm told we should learn more sometime early this week, but some ideas that the Speaker has floated and other congressional Republicans as well is perhaps conditioning the aid, making it more in the form of a loan that Ukraine would ultimately have to pay back. That's one idea.
Weird. Is Israel going to be paying back any of its weapons, donations and such? Probably not.
Been floating for the better part of a week now. So whether or not some type of Ukraine aid package has that type of dynamic to it, again, remains to be seen. But the Speaker has made clear over the recess that he might make some tweaks to the package.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has used the procedural technicality, well, not a technicality, the procedural tool to remove a speaker, a motion to vacate the House speakership. That was used to bounce Kevin McCarthy. How different are things, or how threatened is the current speaker from this motion to vacate?
Well, it's interesting, John, because Congresswoman Green is actually holding a town hall this evening in Georgia where this issue has come up. The Congresswoman continues not to necessarily put a timetable on this, although we know over the course of the recess she has kind of renewed her threats of potentially ousting the speaker, saying that it is time for a new speaker in the House, and some of her opposition has to do in part to the potential possibility that the speaker may put Ukraine aid on the floor, which is something.
Okay. I think we get it. Republicans clearly know what they're doing, which is nothing, as usual, aside from the worst things that they can think of. That stuff gets through, no problem. Anything that sounds reasonable, though, needs like at least 6 months of stalling and wasting taxpayer money. Okay, now this story is both global and American, if you will. This is well, actually, let's start this off a different way. How are you gonna do this? Yeah. All right. So recently, it's been a while since any updates were given on this investigation, but the actual trial involving the Panama Papers is to begin. Finally, 8 years. Count those years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years after the scandal. There's been 27 people indicted or who are going on trial. I don't know if they've all been officially indicted, but I believe they are after this. The first thing we're going to watch is just a way to get us into this. So let's just do it.
First, you must ask yourself, are you wealthy?
Simple truth of the world is that most games, for someone to win, well, someone has to lose.
Think of this as a fairy tale that actually happened.
There's confusion over who has to pay.
So they drowned Joe and 20 other innocent people, and somebody's making money from it.
No, it goes back to this law firm, Mossack Fonseca.
So what happens next? What do we do next?
All I did was try and send money.
It's a scam that goes from Houston to the West Indies to some bank who knows where.
They're getting away with murder.
Which is bad.
Bad? Yeah, bad is such a big word for being such a small word.
I'm gonna get your back. Gonna go out on the town. Get your back. How does it all work?
Bribery, corruption, money laundering, millions and millions and millions of dollars. Somebody has to sound the alarm.
Let's.
Where the fuck is my money?
Most of the time, we don't even know.
Okay. Now that's actually just a trailer from a Netflix documentary about this, called The Laundromat. I actually watched that film. It was quite good. It made it entertaining to talk about banking, which I think can be difficult to do. So let's get into it. This we're gonna start back 8 years ago when this all first happened. This was CBS Morning back then. Panama Papers scandal could have worldwide implications.
New revelations on how the rich and the powerful hide cash are rocking countries around the world. The so-called Panama Papers contain allegations of money laundering and tax evasion. They have sparked investigations in several countries, including the United States. So far, at least 2 world leaders could be at risk of losing their jobs: the Prime Minister of Iceland and the President of Ukraine. Don Daler is here with the growing worldwide scandal. Don, good morning.
Good morning. An anonymous insider passed off millions of internal documents which exposed a global network. More than 140 politicians and public officials allegedly did business with Mossack Fonseca, a Panamanian law firm. Now, concerned citizens are demanding answers from leaders who've been caught up in the scandal. Demonstrators descended on Iceland's capital to protest their prime minister, who was named in the Panama Papers investigations. He's one of a dozen current or former heads of state who allegedly stashed away wealth and evaded taxes through offshore accounts.
Inside Job was a good documentary on the financial crisis. I can't remember if I saw that. It sounds very familiar, but I can't remember that film for some reason. If you couldn't tell, it's not actually a documentary. It's, I guess, what you would call like a docu-film or a docudrama, right? Like they dramatize it. There's certainly some accurate aspects to it, of course. It's based on real life events, but there's definitely some embellishing and some conjecture, among other things, especially because the trial never even happened. They made it in the 8-year span between the finding of this and now, when they're finally doing a trial. It's insane that people doing things this corrupt can just go like a decade without having to pay any consequences.
When journalists pressed the Prime Minister last month about reportedly selling a company in the British Virgin Islands to his wife for $1, he walked out of the interview. The reports also implicate Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, who could face impeachment proceedings after the leaked documents show how the U.S.-backed leader registered an offshore company on the same day scores of Ukrainian forces were killed during a pro-Russian offensive in 2014. The law firm at the center of the leak, Mossack Fonseca, specializes in offshore finances.
Look, based on real shit is a technical term. I won't have these criticisms.
Hundreds of reporters spent more than a year examining nearly 4 decades worth of files. The documents show while Russia was subject to U.S. sanctions after it annexed Crimea, close associates of Vladimir Putin allegedly ran a multi-billion-dollar money laundering ring.
When it comes to the governmental leaders, there will be lots and lots of questions about the source of the funds. I think we've only scratched the surface of the beginning of this scandal.
Right now, no Americans have been named in the investigation, but the Department of Justice is reviewing the reports, saying it takes very seriously all credible allegations of high-level foreign corruption that might have a link to the United States or the U.S. financial system.
Okay. Moving forward to more recent shit. This is from 11 hours ago from France 24. We're going to watch a couple of these because of the fact that as they did back then, they still do now. I noticed this when this first broke 8 years ago. Yes, I was that on YouTube then, but everybody's takes were different. They brought up all sorts of different names depending on what country the news outlet was from. So let's start in France, and then we'll go to Germany. Already heard from America.
The revelations in the 2016 Panama Papers sent shockwaves around the world. First in the Central American country itself, which was forced to adopt new legislation against tax fraud. It's thanks to these new laws that the trial in Panama can go ahead. Among those on trial, the 2 founders of the now defunct Mossack Fonseca.
Mi nombre es Jürgen Mossack. Mi nombre es Ramón Fonseca Mora.
The firm's 11.5 million leaked documents exposed a worldwide web of offshore shell companies for influential clients, including the likes of former British Premier David Cameron.
I want to be completely transparent and open.
And who is now, I believe, is he the ambassador now? No, he's something else. What is David Cameron doing these days? I know he's in government now. He's got like some sort of official diplomatic position, if I'm not mistaken.
and football star Lionel Messi, as well as close associates of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Some of the documents showed that Mossack Fonseca's shell corporations had been used for fraud, tax evasion, or avoiding international sanctions. The leak triggered more scrutiny on tax havens and the opening of judicial and tax investigations around the world. Then Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was disqualified for life from office after being implicated in the files, and the Icelandic Prime Minister at the time was forced to resign. 5 years after the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists first published the papers, governments around the world...
Oh, he's the foreign secretary. I just Googled it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's definitely a diplomatic position. Okay. While we're still on this, I just want to show you this list here, which is fucking mind-boggling. Where is it? Ah, here it is. Okay, so look at this. This is the list of everybody named in the Panama Papers. I mean, it's crazy. This list is humongous. And it's all a bunch of super, like, influential people who are either in government or big business and or just, like, incredibly, like, well-known, famous. It is it's a nuts list. When if you go through this, I am not going to subject you to that, but just look at it. There's 284 names on this thing. There's only 27 people that are getting indicted. It's only 10% of the people who are named in the papers as being complicit in the money laundering and whatnot are actually being indicted for this, it would seem. Okay, moving on to Germany. What's Germany got to say about this? DW.
In 2016, a huge trove of leaked documents revealed how the law firm Mossack Fonseca helped the world's rich and powerful evade the taxman and hide their wealth. The scandal became known as the Panama Papers, and it ensnared many of the world's wealthiest people, from billionaires to politicians to sports stars. Today, 27 people are going on trial in Panama City for alleged money laundering connected to that case.
From politicians to celebrities and criminals, the world's wealthy have always found ways to hide their money, including in Panama, where billions of dollars had been stashed away in a scheme to evade taxes. In April...
Wait, what did Chad tell me, Bad Lefty? I think I missed something. I must have missed something. I don't see ats all the time, because sometimes I'm looking at the wrong screen and it doesn't highlight them for me. And I'd never wear my glasses out of protest against my eyes for being so shitty. They're not really that bad, but they struggle in this low light environment.
2016, investigative journalists reported that Panamanian law firm Mossack Fonseca had set up thousands of offshore companies for that purpose. Journalists reviewed 11.5 million leaked documents, 214,000 offshore companies.
Oh, did they make David Cameron, MBE or whatever it is? Is that what you're saying? I mean, not MBE. What's it? I always forget the British designations for things.
And 14,000 customers.
Oh, about Lord Hamrin, of course. Of course.
The trail quickly led investigators to Deutsche Bank. Several of its staff allegedly helped customers transfer funds, some from suspected criminal activities, to Panama. Other banks have also been implicated.
Like HSBC.
Among the bold-faced names linked to the scandal, Britain's then Prime Minister David Cameron, Argentinian soccer star Lionel Messi, and Iceland's President Sigmundur David Gunnlaugsson, who had to resign after news of his involvement broke. Mossack Fonseca also had Chinese customers, but their names weren't released. Millions in fines have been paid. But the law firm's founders, Panamanian citizens Jürgen Mossack and Ramon Fonseca, have been spared despite international arrest warrants against them.
Oh, they've been spared, even though... Yeah, that's so unlikely that Panama would spare people that contribute a massive amount. In fact, I believe it's more than a majority of... I think I might be wrong about that, but at least at the time, they were a huge portion of the GDP of Panama. Oh, God. Okay, what am I doing now? I feel like I was going to respond to something in chat, but now I can't remember, and you've moved on. Oh, is there no, like, shortening, like a designation for being a member of the House of Lords? Or do you just have to say an entire sentence when you refer to David Cameron now? What time is it? 12:45. We're an hour and a half in. Just finished the Panama Papers. You know what? I think we're going to take a quick break. Self-care break. Okay, chat. Here we go. Well, I hope everybody has been enjoying the stream so far. Just gonna give myself a little bit more energy here before we get through all of this. What was I saying? Ah, yes. If you haven't already, click that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more Galactic news. If you'd like to support me even further, for just a few dollars a month, you can get a whole bunch of Galactic benefits by becoming a Galactic Patreon member on this link in chat. Is it Cisco? I can't see Cisco right now. Where's Cisco? Oh, there he is.
I don't want reality.
Okay, chat.
Don't be creepy.
Jesus ain't say that.
Follow the rich white man.
Okay, we are done with the Mossack Fonseca situation for at least the time being. Let's move on to more things. Well, unfortunately, I have some news for you folks. The woke pope has completely lost it. He was woke, now he's not woke anymore. It happened so quickly, just so unexpectedly. But it happened, folks. Woke pope no longer. Vatican says gender-affirming surgery and surrogacy are violations of human rights and dignity. AP from 6 hours ago. Wait, what is happening? And why is it happening? Why are my lists not coordinated? Hold on, Jack. Motherfucker. Sorry, we'll go to Woke Pope, otherwise known as Post-Woke Pope, from now on. Forgot about this one. Somehow I looked over it. It was here, in fact, and I just can't stay organized well enough. But that is a Haiti. Thank you, Shade Dragon. Yes, this is Haiti. Just wanted to remind everybody really quickly here that shit is still not good in Haiti. There has been very little news coming out of here, but there's still fighting going on, and there is still a great deal of talk. Oh my god, Jessica Fletcher, you got 30 likes. Well done, chat. What was I saying? By the way, this is for you, chat. Fucking hell. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, but there's been talk of the UN, in fact, more than talk. They have been going down into the Caribbean and to Jamaica, recruiting and training people to go into Haiti. This is just a little bit of news from there. Haiti police evacuate area around National Palace amid a gun battle. The Jessica's here. Hold on. Let me give you your Jessica. Jessica Fletcher. Make sure she's on both screens here. Jessica Fletcher. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now back to real shit. My message is that they, the government, need to see this for what it is. They must see the gangs as the aggressors, but also as the result of the misery of the people. It is social injustice that caused all of this. Okay. That's all I have for you on Haiti.
Vatican document on...
Now, let's talk about post-woke pope. AP 7 hours ago, whatever it was. Here it is.
The Vatican document on human dignity covers a lot of territory, but the 2 points that are getting the most attention are on the calls of gender-affirming surgery and surrogacy are grave violations of human dignity, on par with things like abortion and euthanasia.
Jesus,
this
I
is not
say
a
that.
new position for the Vatican. Pope Francis himself has said this before on several occasions, but it was still saddening to the trans community, who called it an outdated and harmful declaration from the very authoritative Vatican Doctrine Office. Pope Francis has made reaching out to the LGBTQ community really a hallmark of his papacy, and yet he has a real problem with what he calls gender ideology. And so
Jesus Christ. The Pope sounds like Ben Shapiro. So if anybody tells you the Pope is too woke, you tell him fuck off.
this document now puts that on paper in a very authoritative way. Cardinal Victor Fernandez, who's the head of the Vatican Doctrine Office, presented this document today at a press conference. He acknowledged that it comes after a previous document which called for the allowance of blessings for same-sex unions. So he
acknowledges that this.
Jesus, I say that.
He acknowledges that Jesus didn't say it and that they're just kind of doing whatever over there. Ah, boy. You know, I was... So, on previous streams, I have been quoted as... Well, this isn't an exact quote, but I've definitely given support to the woke Pope for saying woke things that I genuinely believe in. And now, he's ruined it all. All that goodwill... in like a few short phrases, one being gender ideology and the other, oh fuck it, you get it, chat. Church and state are solid as a rock. All right. And then we're just going to follow it up here with this video, also from the Associated Press from 2 hours ago. A father with children, born via surrogacy, rejects the Vatican's view. No kidding. And this guy, you'll see pretty quickly, this guy definitely comes off as being pretty religious. He's got that vibe.
I think it's important for people to understand that and recognize that maybe we didn't create a family in the more traditional way, and to say the way we did it was somehow wrong or is not dignified is really, you know, saying we're somehow, our children are somehow less human than other children, and that's a recipe for hate and mistreatment. Regardless of how we created our family, the important thing is we are a family. And, you know, and we know and understand the reality is you don't need a genetic bond to create a family. You need love. And love is what creates a family. And that's what's always been important to us, is to create a family of love. You know, every time we think we've made progress, it's sort of that 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
I gotta say, the way that he's talking makes it seem to me, and feel free to push back on this, but the way, because this is just a, this is genuinely just an opinion, but the way that he seems to be framing things is that he requires the acceptance of a man who is neither elected by him nor really anybody. Well, technically there's like some sort of like Vatican voting system, but you get what I'm saying. He's concerned about the whims of a theocrat. Meanwhile, he is married to a man and has 2 children out of surrogacy, And still, he insists on taking it. It hurts my brain that this man cares this much about what the Pope has to say. We talk about the woke Pope in a very sarcastic sort of way, right? Because we know he's not really woke, right? He runs an institution that we could go on for literal days about the bad things it has done and has continued to do to the present. Not that they have like an army running around anymore or anything like that, but you get they might not have an army, but they have a massive coffers and other things and influence. But you know, I think it just, we shouldn't care, right? Effectively, it shouldn't be that, you know, the Vatican is still a freaking state in 2024, right? It's insane that an entire, you know, it's you know, it kind of is like a mini, like a theocracy, right? Sure, is it tiny? Yeah, but anyway, I don't know why I'm going on about this.
You know, kind of mentality. And it does at times get very exhausting. We're not asking for special rights or anything, you know, out of the ordinary. We're asking for basic human rights, whether, you know, for the LGBTQ community and our families and how we created our families. We are just asking for human rights and to be treated with the same dignity and respect as any other human.
Yeah, and I mean, does he? Do they deserve that? Yes, yes, 100%. Can we define ourselves based upon what the Pope has to say from one day to the other? A man who's like on the verge of death. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, where he skipped. Was it even a couple of weeks? How long ago was Easter? I feel like it was a couple of weeks ago now. Fucking hell. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Like, oh shit. My brain is just breaking and I keep trying to read chats every time I see a new chat come through. I keep losing my train of thought. God damn it. You gotta stop basing things like that, right? Like, you get it. You get it. The Pope's freaking word should not be anything we're hanging our self-worth on. It's ill-advised, especially if we don't conform to the, you know, the quote-unquote standard sort of family or identity. Like, fucking hell. All right, I'm just gonna push forward out of this religious mess into a economic mess. This one is kind of funny, if I'm being perfectly honest, mostly because of the irony, but also it's a little infuriating. Let's just move into this without too much context. Associated Press from 18 hours ago. U.S. will push China to change policy that threatens American jobs, says Yellen.
China is now simply too large for the rest of the world to absorb this enormous capacity. Actions taken by the PRC today can shift world prices. And when the global market is flooded by artificially cheap Chinese products, the viability of American and other foreign firms is put into question. I think, importantly...
Now, Janet Yellen is no longer at the Federal Reserve, right? She was the chair during Obama's second term, if I'm not mistaken. She was the vice chair during Bernanke's last term as federal chair. And actually, during Bernanke's term, it was technically for chairman still. Janet Yellen made it that it was the chair. I think that was took long enough to figure that one out. There's no video, huh? Oh, bastard. Thank you, BCat. I'm too busy trying to do things and sometimes miss a thing. What was I saying though? Fuck, I forgot the context of what I was saying. Because I totally threw me off that I don't have a video. These are the aspects of streaming that caused me to lose my train of thought. Janet Yellen. What was I saying? Janet. What was she complaining about? Oh, right. So she's no longer at the Federal Reserve, right? She's now the Treasury Secretary. But she's very much trying to stay in line with the Fed policy at all times, to some degree, right? That's at least the way that I see it. Now, you could disagree that she has her own agenda, but it's my feeling that she genuinely agrees with the consensus from the Federal Board of Governors of the like the Federal Open Market Committee, and it is it's funny to me that she's out here on a podium complaining about low prices when American companies like Walmart and others are being sued currently in court over artificially inflating their own prices, when the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates, or at least it has stopped raising interest rates, but is keeping interest rates high right now, higher than they've been in the last decade and a half, 2 decades maybe. It's been like 15 to 20 years since they've been this high, and it's all to supposedly, right, keep inflation down, right? Puts pressure on the system. That's the claim. But why are we complaining about lower prices then? If somebody's able to produce something cheaper, why should we not be, like, why should that be a problem? Right? And it's hypocrisy. And it's just because American producers refuse to not, to like, you know, to not continue like just randomly jacking up prices on people. That's why we have inflation to a huge degree. It's not the only reason, but is it the main reason? I think so.
It reflects Chinese policies that place great priority on these sectors, channel support to them, enable them to continue operating even when prices drop to very low levels due to overcapacity, and their firms don't exit the market. Instead, it's potentially our firms that have to do so.
Okay. Got one more video, I think, here on this meeting.
Productive, direct, and extensive.
Stop. Don't get ahead of me. This next video is from CBS discussing a little bit more in depth the details of this meeting.
Productive, direct, and extensive. That is how Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen assessed her talks with Chinese officials in Beijing. Yellen warned her hosts on several matters during the weekend visit. She raised the possibility of sanctions if China provides any weapons for Russia to use against Ukraine. She also urged Beijing to stop exporting environmental products that are cheaper to buy than the ones made in the West.
Actions taken by the PRC today can shift world prices. And when the global market is flooded by artificially cheap Chinese products, the viability of American and other foreign firms is put into question.
Let's bring in Scott Kennedy. He's a senior advisor and trustee chair in Chinese business and economics at the Center for...
Here's the thing, right? Like, complaining about American competitiveness in the global market from a bunch of free market types until they can come up with deals that just ruin people by allowing companies to do whatever the fuck they want. Like the suggestion that wait, I'm sorry, hold on, I gotta hear what she said again just to repeat.
And when the global market is flooded by artificially cheap
Right. So, you know, when we look at it, right, like over the last, I don't know, since, like, let's just say since Obama's term, right, since like 2008, when the government started talking about renewables and started, you know, giving out like grants for all these sorts of things that we should have been doing, right? What did most companies do, right? They in the last like 10 or 15 years, they just continued to, instead of doing like research and development and attempting to become more competitive, instead of just waiting for people to invent something and then to buy them, right? Because the merger and acquisitions has been a huge portion of what American growth actually is. It's not really big companies doing innovation anymore, right? So do they do some? Yeah, no, 100%. I'm not going to say they don't do any, but how much money that they spend on R&D versus stock buybacks is insane. I don't have a graphic for this, but I feel like I should. But it's a lot. I mean, we've already talked about just two companies today combined have done, what was it? It was 35 billion and 109 billion, but they were over different periods of time. But just combined, it's like $150 billion right there.
these products. The viability of American and other foreign firms is put into question.
Let's bring in Scott Kennedy. He's a senior advisor and trustee chair in Chinese business and economics at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you.
Honestly, Gabby, planned obsolescence lessons. Why can I speak right now? Hold on, I need water. Planned obsolescence is like a huge problem, and it's not talked about enough, because not only is it essentially predatory on the consumer in terms of the relationship, right, between sellers and customers, it is harmful for the fucking environment to the umpteenth degree. You know, it is half the reason why we have, not half the reason, but it's a huge portion of the reason why we have so much waste is because of planned obsolescence, so that you have to keep buying stuff. So you have to keep getting more stuff sent to your house from Amazon in a box with styrofoam in it, or whatever those little puffy things that they put in there now. You know, like, it's just continuous waste because they're expecting you to have to buy something that, you know, back in the day when you bought something like this, I mean, granted, I don't think I was really ever old enough to experience this world, but there was a time where you expected something to work forever. But companies figured out that they didn't have to do that, and that nobody in government was going to try and stop them.
For being with us. Last month, Chinese President Xi Jinping.
There's also a similar problem, but different in terms of the right to repair movement. And I think that one's also incredibly important as well. And granted, not everybody can repair their stuff, but it also creates a monopoly of repair, so that even if somebody wanted to repair your stuff for cheaper than Apple wanted to do it, they couldn't, because they'd be violating, in some cases, like an Apple term of service or some bullshit. Anyways,
met with American CEOs to try to reassure them about working in the Chinese market. Between that and Yellen's visit,
I don't know why I'm still harping on this, but it was a great point. So good job, Gabby. But like, the thing is they're essentially tangential and feed into, like, it feeds into the planned obsolescence wastefulness problem. Because if you can't repair your phone or your computer, and you can't get somebody else to repair it for you, and if you go to Apple, they want you to pay for the device a second time to fix it, right? Like, you know, it leaves you with very few fucking options, right? It's just, it's problematic, not just for society, but for the environment, like I've been saying. So I'm going to stop.
Is there improvement in the U.S.-China business relationship?
Compared to a year ago when we were all talking about balloons and the likelihood of war over Taiwan, things have stabilized.
You've been boycotting Apple since the early 90s. See, I wasn't even able to boycott things in the 90s. I was a child. That's how young I am. But yeah, fact is, I have not boycotted Apple. In fact, I have tons of Apple products, and I know how to use them. I know how to take them apart, put them back together, and fix them. It's partly why I know a bunch of stuff about this topic.
We now have competition without conflict, but that doesn't mean we have competition without tensions. And because of Chinese industrial policy and its effect on national security.
By the way, I forgot to mention, this guy's basically here to kind of like suggest that America is right for wanting China to stop making goods cheaper than we do.
As well,
even though that we've been begging for them to be able to do that, they figured out how to do it themselves. They made enough money to say "fuck you" to American companies that had come there and paid terrible, terribly low. Like I don't know if you've seen any of the footage of like back in the day when there was like serious problems with like, sweatshops and whatever else back then, and it was all American companies doing it. I might be being a little bit hyperbolic, but there was a lot of them that were doing these sorts of things, and they're still to some degree happening. Right? It's not over, but the economy of China has changed drastically. They have a real middle class now, much more than they did in the past. And for people that say it's communist, it really isn't a communist country anymore. It's fucking full-on global economy. It's, it's competing with America.
On fair trade, the secretary raised these worries with Beijing and did so quite directly.
And help us understand the dispute over environmental exports. Why is Secretary Yellen focused on that?
Well, China is by far and away the world's largest producer of electric vehicle batteries as well as electric vehicles. Last year.
Okay, we don't need to watch this whole thing. We've definitely spent too much time on this fucking video, barely even talking about just tangential shit about this video. I've said tangential twice in the last 10 minutes. I hate that. I hate that for me. Okay, what am I on next? I used to be a baby. That's true. I did used to be a baby. A baby lord. I was born with this helmet on. What am I doing now? Okay. Staying on Asian policy, but leaving China to some degree, but not really. This is from the Associated Press from 5 hours ago, where Biden met with Japan's PM, Fumio Kishida, and they will be holding a trilateral meeting with the Philippines. I wonder why.
President Joe Biden hosts Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida for an official state visit this week, a rare offer made to foreign heads of state. The first Japanese state visit in nearly a decade will include the familiar trappings of a ceremonial arrival and a star-studded state dinner, and a focus on deepening ties between the two countries.
And I expect that there will be significant announcements in a number of areas, including in defense, also cooperation on space exploration and space security. We can have a much closer military partnership, and that sends a message to potential adversaries that the U.S. and Japan are ready, and others should not misunderstand that.
Ahead of his arrival in Washington, Japan's Kishida spoke of strengthening the military and weapons development cooperation with the United States and other Pacific allies. The announcement of an improved military partnership is expected to come the day before another regionally significant
People from China, they love me.
President Biden will host Prime Minister Marcos of the Philippines, Prime Minister Kishida of Japan at the White House for the first trilateral U.S.-Japan-Philippines Leaders Summit.
High on the trilateral agenda are growing concerns about China's activity in the South China Sea.
Every major alliance for the United States in the Indo-Pacific is getting stronger at the same time. First time that's been the case since the end of the Cold War. And that's not because of Biden administration magic, not because they're sprinkling fairy dust on our allies and they suddenly want to cooperate with us. It's because our allies share common concerns with the United States about what they see as challenges from China, challenges from North Korea.
While there's no equivalent of a NATO-style military alliance in the Pacific, the Biden administration is banking on growing cooperation between like-minded allies to counter adversaries.
I always click too late. Pause yourself. God damn it. Okay. Whoa. Whoa, don't do that. What the heck? Click. Pause.
President Joe Biden hosts Japanese Prime Minister.
Oh, whatever. Whatever. I'll just click. What was I saying? Huh? You were never a baby Shade Dragon? That's crazy. That's crazy.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
What's next? Oh, okay. Why did I do it this way? Seems like a strange way to do this. Okay, well, going to Europe for whatever reason. I don't know why I did it this way. This is from the Associated Press as well. And Germany has deployed combat-ready troops to Lithuania, which is on the border of Russia. Go.
Ihre militärische Präsenz
I forgot that he speaks Ukraine. I should have, Lithuanian here. Your military presence is proof of German reliability, which is very, very...
Beweis, das ist Beweis der deutscher Zuverlässigkeit. Das ist sehr, sehr wichtig für uns.
It's very, very important for us and the whole region. Fantastic, says Gabby. Is that in relation to Germany deploying those troops? Yeah, it's great. It's definitely not an escalation. Not an escalation at all. They're just hanging out. They're just combat ready. And just hanging out in Lithuania. Just happenstance. Okay, let's go to the UN here. This is from 12 hours ago. Coming straight out of the UN, whose mics always suck, so prepare yourself for that. I'm going to try and jack up the volume here. So you can maybe, potentially hear this. It's honestly pretty bad. But it is important, as Palestine and Malta are both applying to become members of the UN Security Council. So let's listen to both the speaker from Malta and from Palestine on this.
Go ahead. So let me ask again. First, do you feel optimistic on the admission of the membership? And second, how much time will it take?
He'll answer the first part, and I'll answer the second part.
Well, you start with the second part.
The second part, the council has decided that this deliberation has to take place during the month of April. So that is the timeline. So April 2024. That is the decision that was taken by the council.
I'm going to read this out for her because it's so quiet. That is the decision that's taken by the council that's just gathered by the council.
I am honored to be standing.
I'm honored to be standing next to my good friend, the ambassador of Malta, who is now this month is the president of the Security Council.
We just finished a
open meeting of the Security Council, in which the Council unanimously deferred the discussion of the application of the State of Palestine for admission to the Standing Committee, the Committee on Admission. This is a historic moment again. When our president, President Abbas, in the year of 2011, did submit our application for admission, and it was sent to the Security Council through the Secretary General of the UN. It was a historic moment then, and now that this historic moment has been revived again. And we sincerely hope, after 12 years since we changed our status to an observer state, that the Security State Council will elevate itself to implementing the global consensus on the two-state solution by admitting the State of Palestine for full membership. We will follow closely the deliberation in the Standing Committee, and we will continue to lobby all of our friends in the Security Council here in New York, at the level of capitals, at the level of ministers and heads of state and government. We are so honored that the representative of the Arab group in the Security Council now is Algeria. It might be a good omen that we declared our independence, the independence of the State of Palestine in November 1988. We came as an observer. Algeria, we came as an observer in the UN system. When the foreign minister of Algeria, the late president, was the president of the General Assembly in 1974, when he invited the late chairman Arafat to come and address the General Assembly. When he gave his famous speech, "Don't let the green olive drop from my hand." And now again, Algeria for the third time is representing all the Arabs in the Security Council, definitely representing the State of Palestine. And we sincerely hope that during this historic time, that the State of Palestine to become a full member. Okay. I know he's speaking English, but it's incredibly quiet. I'm fully aware of the fact that he's speaking English. Both of them are speaking English. But since they unfortunately, that whole interview, they're standing. I'll go back. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Do you see how they're standing both on one side of the microphone? This is not how you want to run a press conference, okay? I'm not an expert, but I do watch a lot of press conferences. And you want to be directly in front of the microphone, not to the side of it, not kind of juxtaposing, but they're not even really going per position. I guess my point is that they did not. I feel like they did not think about that ahead of time, and I did, and so that's why I read it out for you. I'm not going to do it for the whole thing, so we're going to stop it there. This one I'm not going to read out, also because fuck this guy. But we're not even going to watch much of this at all. But this is Israel on the admission of new members to the Security Council. Let's see what this idiot has to say.
We want to thank you all for joining us. Ambassador Erdogan will deliver brief remarks.
Sorry, wrong idiot. Oh God, space pollen or something. What the hell is happening?
Good morning. From well before the establishment of the UN, the Palestinians' goal has been clear: the annihilation of the Jews. Haj Amin al-Husseini, one of the founding fathers of Palestinian nationalism.
This guy's an idiot. Oh boy.
Worked hand in hand with Hitler to achieve this. I just presented the photo, the picture of both of them in the General Assembly during my speech. And from then,
I just want to point out, and you should try and keep track of this, but he is getting more and more desperate. The tone of this whole thing, the use of props and other such stuff, it really makes you think that they're getting pretty desperate.
until today, the root of this conflict has not changed. The Palestinians seek the destruction of Israel and the murder of Jews.
Palestinians seek bread. Palestinians seek shelter right now. Water, peace, safety, not to starve to death or be bombed. That seems to me what Palestinians want. I don't know where he's getting his data from, but pretty sure they just want to be left the fuck alone and allowed to govern themselves.
UN was established in the wake of World War II. This is the picture that I just presented.
Here we go. Here we go.
On the stage.
So look at this guy getting out a picture of Hitler, and I believe that guy is technically, who was that? I don't think he's actually Palestinian. I'm pretty sure he's from a different country, but he happens to be Arab, so it's very scary. Now, you might not be familiar with this, but there's something called the Havara Agreement, in which the Zionists collaborated with the Nazis. It happened in 1933, lasted for 6 years until 1939, where Zionists who were able to afford it could transfer their assets out of the country. And you know, it's interesting that he wants to draw these sorts of comparisons. And I could bring out a picture of this agreement for you. I'm not going to do it, okay? We don't need to stoop to his level. We know it's a genocide. We know that these sorts of tactics are just pathetic.
It only demonstrates one of their meetings, and this is something well known. The UN was established in the wake of World War II to prevent atrocities such as the Holocaust, but the same genocidal ideology...
Well, thank you for the blessings, chat. I didn't see that until now. I was overtaken by the idiocy of this. Okay, how far? We're a minute and a half. That's enough. We've seen enough. That's all I could handle myself the first time. But I can almost guarantee that all 15 torturous minutes would be literally unbearable. So I'm not gonna subject you to that, chat. Not gonna do that. Let's watch a little portion of this next one from France 24. This is 13 hours ago. We are seeing the effects of U.S. pressure on Israel in Gaza. Yeah, I think I actually might be starting to agree with this, at least the title of this video. The analysis gets a little bit out of hand. We're probably going to end it pretty quickly. But I will also point this out to you. The person being interviewed is an Israeli academic, I believe. Okay, anyways, let's watch this.
Pick up now on a little of what we heard in that report with Ilan Grassamer. He's a professor of political science at the University of Bar Ilan in Tel Aviv. He joins us this afternoon from there. Hello to you, sir. Thanks for making the time.
With pleasure.
Can I ask you, first of all, do you believe the Israeli army still plans now to enter Rafah in the south of Gaza?
I don't know exactly, but I think that they did not renounce going to Rafah and trying to eliminate what remains from Hamas military force. I am not sure Israel will enter Rafah, but this is a strong possibility.
And that would suggest, wouldn't it, that American pressure on this Israeli government is having some impact?
Yes, certainly. I think that if Israeli forces came back to the Israeli territory today and evacuated most...
Why are we talking about kinesiology right now? This is random. What is this in relation to? Are you talking about, wait, his name, that's not Yoav. What's that guy's name? I forget. Are you talking about his body language at the podium?
The Gaza Strip, it is foremostly because of the pressure of the United States, of Joe Biden. And also concerning Rafah, I think there is not something like an interdiction or that Biden forbids entering into Rafah, but the demand of the Americans is that, first of all the civilians, around a million civilians who are in Rafah, be evacuated to other parts of the Gaza Strip. So there is a strong...
So yeah, that's where we're going to cut him off, because he starts really going off of the rails here, talking about evacuating people so that they can continue the destruction of Gaza. I genuinely don't know much about this guy, but since he's talking like that, and he's an Israeli professor of political science, my guess is this guy might have some sort of shitty views about Palestinians. And honestly, he does. He does. The rest of this interview gets worse and worse. But I'm just trying to provide context for kind of the direction of what's been happening here with regards to Palestine. Funny, this next video, also from France 24 English, from the exact same time that this other one came out. This is entitled, Israel Says It's Far From Stopping Its Gaza Operations Despite Pulling Out Troops from the South. So sort of going against everything that last title said. So let's see. This next one.
So the war in Gaza continues, and we are far from stopping. The quote from one of Israel's top military chiefs, dispelling hopes that a withdrawal of Israeli forces from the territory is underway. Israel's military has, for sure, withdrawn its troops from the southern Gazan city of Khan Yunis, wrapping up then a key phrase in its ground offensive and bringing its troop presence in the territory to one of the lowest levels since the 6-month war began. But they are said to be merely regrouping as the army prepares to move into Hamas's last stronghold of Rafah.
The war in Gaza continues, and we are far from stopping. The heads of Hamas are still hiding. We will reach them sooner or later.
We're always discussing phrenology and kinesiology. Okay. So much pseudoscience.
We will not leave any operative Hamas divisions in any part of the Gaza Strip. We have plans and we will act when we decide.
Our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons, is joining us now from Jerusalem. Rob, first of all, bring us up to date with exactly what the situation appears to be on the ground at the moment, can you?
Yeah, well, as you said, Stuart, it does seem to be now just an operation to recuperate, refit, regather forces and plan the next step. They went into southern Gaza with several aims in mind. First of all, to defeat Hamas in southern Gaza. It's disputable whether they've managed to achieve that. They also intended to capture the leader of Hamas.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that phrenology is a bit more of a pseudoscience than kinesiology. But I don't know very much about kinesiology. I only know about phrenology more because it's such a ridiculous thing that's been used by a bunch of horrible people. As for kinesiology, I'm definitely not a expert on that one, Gabby. So I don't know to what degree is pretend. Although it does seem to be a bit of some of it does seem a little bit ridiculous. But I'm pretty sure you can technically get a degree in kinesiology still, not phrenology though. That's definitely pretend. That's the one where they measure your head and other brain, whatever. I mean, I don't know that much about it, but you know, they determine if you're honestly, I feel like it would determine whatever, because it was basically just witchcraft.
kill him, Yahya Sinwar, and Mohammed Deis, his second in command. They've failed to do that. On Saturday, just hours...
Oh, so it's two different things, kinesics and kinesiology. Hold on. We've delved into this. We've gone too far. I have to look this up now. Kinesics. Okay, right. So kinesiology is the study of movement, but kinesics is the study of how movement and gestures like portray a certain psychology or other sorts of tells, if you will. And it is that is, yeah, but there's definitely a difference, and I'm just not a body movement expert to be able to truly give you exact distinctions on this beyond that.
Before they started their pullout, there was a clash with Hamas in which 4 Israeli soldiers were killed and several wounded. So fighting is still going on. So it's certainly not that they feel that the operation is complete in southern Gaza, although several Israeli officers talking to the press did suggest that they had completely dismantled in Hamas in southern Gaza. That seems to be bravado more than anything else, an attempt to put a spin on what has happened. I think probably the biggest rationalization is the one that they're now giving today, which is they want to refit and regroup, and that they haven't given up on the idea of attacking Rafah in the south, where they believe there is a full Hamas brigade. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has said on several occasions that unless that brigade is wiped out, victory will not be achieved against Hamas. But the question remains, even if they do manage to do that, will Hamas have been wiped out? And another question that remains is, now that the Israelis have pulled out of southern Gaza, what's going to replace them there? There's a vacuum of power at the moment. In the north, when they did that, Hamas moved back in again. One can only assume that the same thing may happen now in the south.
No kidding. No fucking kidding. Seriously, though. It's just ridiculous to be continuing with the framing gets worse and worse, but like the fact is that, you know, Hamas is not going to be wiped out, right? Unless they murder every Palestinian, right? It's effectively just an ideology of resistance against Israel. Okay, where the fuck is next? Alright, we're going to skip this next one. Hey, I get to skip a vid. How lovely. Exactly. It's Palestine. It's their homes, right? And the more that they suppress those people, the more they're going to want to resist, you would think. Granted, starving them makes it hard to resist. Undoubtedly. What's fucking next here? Alright, yeah, so we're skipping that. We're going to go and look at a few videos of footage now that Israel has withdrawn. Cameras have gone into Khan Yunis and have documented the destruction there, and it's pretty intense. This first one's from Guardian News. As Hamas and Israeli delegations have taken for ceasefire talks. Damn, that's fucking loud. Hold on. Footage from Khan Yunis shows the scale of devastation caused by Israeli strikes. Buildings could be seen reduced to mounds of rubble. The army has said the Palestinians displaced are now allowed to return to their homes. Great. I don't know about you, chat, but I don't see any homes. I just see shells of buildings. 2 Israeli brigades remain in the northern half of Gaza and the new corridor that Israel has established through the middle. Homes. Return to your homes. Right. Okay.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Khan Yunis, Gaza's second largest city, has endured whoopsies. Sorry, chat, not reading fast enough. Has endured has endured months of heavy fighting. Sorry, I can't read over my microphone right now. Keep putting it into the goddamn corner. At least 33,000 Palestinians have been killed since fighting starting in October. There's definitely more than that now. And we're going to keep looking at this footage. And this next one, yeah, well, let's just watch this as it sort of flies in the face of that 33,000 number. As we've been talking about it, the rubble is just filled with people. Khan Yunis smells like death as Palestinians.
First Palestinians to go back to Khan Yunis.
Sorry, I didn't finish that sentence. Khan Yunis smells like death as Palestinians return to devastated homes. This is Al Jazeera from 15 hours ago, not 6. Okay. Let me get the volume back up over here. I think this is loud as fuck, though. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit.
For some of the first Palestinians to go back to Khan Yunis, there's not much left that's recognizable. Once home to around 500,000 people, this city in the south of Gaza has been flattened by Israel's military.
The city looks heartbreaking. It's unbelievable. We didn't expect this scale of destruction. There isn't a house without a martyr, wounded or destroyed. Word can't describe it.
Many of the people who've been living in tents or in the open for months on end were hoping there might be some way to start rebuilding their lives.
We came to see what happened to the house, but there weren't any houses here. It's just rubble. You can't live here. Animals can't live here. So how's a person supposed to? The destruction is unreal.
Israel's military announced on Sunday it had withdrawn most of its troops from Khan Yunis. It wraps up a key phase in its battle with Hamas. Troop levels are now at some of the lowest levels in Gaza since the war began 6 months ago. But there are reminders that this is still a war zone. Rebuilding here will take many, many years, if
There's still
Israel
reminders.
allows it.
What isn't a reminder that it's still a war zone? Every fucking every place you look is a reminder that it's a fucking war zone. Who wrote that copy? That was terrible. That was terrible. There are still reminders. There's basically nothing left but like rubble piles and husks of buildings. It's all fucking a reminder. How could it not be? People's lives are underneath these fucking rubbles. Rubble piles, rubbles. This is what happens when it starts getting late and I start losing it. Alright, not doing that bad. We're only 2.5 hours in. I'm just tired today, I think. We're just gonna look at more footage. This is from Global News. They have drone footage showing more of the rubble. And you can see on the left side, that was before, and that on the right side is what's after. November 26th. July 26th on the left, November 26th on the right. Jesus Christ. It's all gone. This is November 26th as well. So this is all from fucking 5 months ago? Oh, good God. It's honestly kind of amazing how beautiful it was before, even though a lot of it had been bombed in the past to some degree. But this is unreal. Unbelievable. Good God. It's all gone. Jesus fucking Christ was from Palestine. So true. So true.
Israel says it has wrapped.
Pause. Okay. Where are we? Alright, chat. Well, this is our final video for the evening. I made great time. Only 2.5 hours today. Let's see. Yeah. Alright, well, this last video is from the AP. And it's just kind of wrapping up that last portion of stuff that we just looked at.
Israel says it has wrapped up its operation in the Gaza Strip's second largest city. The Israeli army says it pulled out its final ground troops from Khan Yunis on Sunday. This is a city in the southern Gaza Strip that Israel identified early on in the war as a major Hamas stronghold. Now, the Israeli military says it inflicted heavy damage on Hamas during 4 months of fighting. It says it killed hundreds or thousands of fighters and also caused significant damage to the group's underground tunnel network. But this operation clearly has taken a heavy toll. Thousands of Palestinians, displaced Palestinians, attempted to return home today, streaming into the city on foot. Many of them say they don't even recognize the place. There is heavy damage across the city. Thousands of buildings were destroyed or damaged, and there was scene after scene of people going back to where their homes used to be situated, digging through the rubble in search of clothes and other small items. Now, this does not mean an end to the war. But it is an end to a significant stage of the war, and the question is, what happens now? Israel is still vowing to press ahead to Rafah, the southern city on the Egyptian border. It says this is Hamas's final stronghold, and it cannot complete the war without destroying the Hamas forces.
I'd also point out it's Palestinians. It's Gazans, at least, not West Bankers, but it's Gazans' last stronghold, okay? There's literally nothing left. We just looked at fucking, what was that, like 5 minutes of footage of just different pictures of just completely deleted buildings.
But there is significant international opposition. Over 1 million Palestinians have huddled in Rafah after fleeing fighting in other parts of Gaza. They say there's no other place to go. At the same time, there are ceasefire talks going on in Cairo. Yet another round of these ceasefire talks. So far, no signs of progress.
Which is really, really unfortunate. I had, when we first had the news of the ceasefire talks happening in Egypt once again, I had hope that they would go better than they had previously. And I'm still going to stay optimistic about it, but it's very frustrating to hear that Israel is still holding him up. It's a time to end it. Come on, Israel. You got to stop being so fucking insane and psychopathic. It is time to end the destruction. Don't worry, Gabby. Don't worry. Don't get ahead of ourselves here with the sad face. It was the last video, but I'm gonna let you guys hang out by the pool. Okay? So don't you worry. Okay. Well, chat, I hope you enjoyed our little journey through the void. Not sure what it is that we achieved here today, aside from keeping ourselves ourselves more up to date on the atrocities that are happening in our world. Well, sometimes that's all we can do. Till I see you next time, chat. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. What, you thought I forgot? Of course not. How could I forget? Our galactic producers, Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Robot Cat, Pitchforks Dragon, the Anti-Corporatist, Vincent Morales. All of them made the most galactic decision possible. And by spending $3 a month, have accessed the galactic benefits of a lifetime. You can too, by clicking this link in chat.